Hey friend, welcome to the Halfway to Dead podcast. I'm your host, Jen Lovell. Listen, you and I have reached that age where we are done with the bullshit. We know that midlife is our chance to flip the script and experience life on our own terms. It's time to reconnect with our higher selves and reclaim our inner peace. Are you ready with an open heart and an open mind? Awesome, you're in the right place. Hop in and ride shotgun with me on this midlife spiritual journey. Hey guys, welcome back. I recently went to a weekend retreat in upstate New York. It was just a long weekend. We talk about it during the episode, so listen for that. I want to introduce you to my new friend, Marcia Wakeman. After a rewarding 30-plus year career in financial services technology and consulting, Marcia transitioned from an intrapreneur to a passionate entrepreneur, helping others find more joy. Marcia embraces the truth of if it's not love, it's fear. Even in the corporate world, we talk about that in the episode. She does workshops, coaching. She's a speaker. She just loves to share her wisdom she's gained throughout her healing journey. For over 3 decades, Marcia has helped hundreds of clients, colleagues, and friends unlock their potential, achieve success, release deep-seated fears, and embrace a life filled with meaning and joy. If you're feeling crushed by the corporate grind, shadowed by the weight of oppressive religious upbringings, or simply yearning for a brighter spark of joy in your life, Marcia is eager to walk alongside you, sharing light to guide your journey towards freedom and fulfillment. So Marcia wrote a book and it's newly published. I have already read the thing cover to cover. It's called SoulFullJoy: My Sacred Journey from Shadows to the Light. So in this episode, we're talking about her book and her spiritual journey. We share some stories from the weekend retreat we had together. Spoiler alert, there were magic mushrooms. We go over how she's gotten where she is in her life, her upbringing in a cult to the corporate world that she took by storm. She's an amazing woman. I think you're going to be really inspired by her. And then after you listen to this episode, hop over to the bonus content. Because I've been listening to you guys. I know you're busy girls, all right? You don't have time for really long episodes. So I took a section where we talked about the 10 things she wished she knew. And I think you're going to really connect with all 1 through 10. So hop over and listen because that's a whole nother beautiful conversation we had. All right, let's get in there. Okay, you guys, Marcia's here. Hey, Marcia, good to see you.
Jen, so lovely to see you. So happy to be here.
Marcia and I met just a few weeks ago on a really cool weekend, all women's kind of retreat. And we'll get more into that later, but we had some really special experiences there. And that's where I learned about this book we're going to talk about today, you guys. It was fresh off the presses when we met, right, Marcia?
It was June 2nd.
It had really only been out for like a week. So, of course, I got my hands on it right away, got my signed copy from Marcia before I left the retreat, and then dug into it. So I wanted to present it to you guys because there's going to be so many things in this that you're going to really connect with. Because Marcia's a midlifer like us, and she really had her spiritual journey closer to midlife, right, Marcia? This didn't all happen for you in your 20s, 30s. No.
It's been a journey for sure. And I think even more focused in my 50s. Absolutely.
Oh, God. Yeah, it just keeps getting better. I want to start with childhood years. We won't spend too long on it, but childhood years are so foundational to our entire lives, right? Mm-hmm. Especially those first 7 years. We often all have to go back to those years, right? To like figure our stuff out. Tell us how yours started because you grew up in a very unique environment.
I did. I grew up in New Hampshire at a very religious and oppressive environment. It is a cult. And I knew really from a young age, something was wrong. I didn't have words to describe it, but I felt fear. I felt oppression. And that stayed with me and lingered with me. And when I look back, I realize, what it was and was always seeking to kind of move beyond that. Because for those of us who have grown up in a religious environment, the fear is confusing to us. It can be overwhelming. It can be even more of you're doing something wrong, you're feeling something wrong. And I didn't know how to escape it.
Yes. I'm going to throw a little quote from her book at you guys right now because I loved this part and I think we're going to connect with it. Marcia says, it was called, the cult you were in is called The Kingdom, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So let's preface it with that. The kingdom's doctrine twisted goodness into rigid formula. Salvation wasn't about helping others, but about avoiding sin. And nearly everything I longed to do was considered a sin. Dancing, rock music, movies, and pierced ears were all forbidden, each a potential step towards damnation. This conformity dulled our spirits, numbed our personalities, stifled expression, and crushed any hope of choosing our own path. And I know it doesn't matter what religion you grew up in, if it was a pretty hefty one, because I grew up in one just like that too. That's exactly how we feel. Like you put it very well into words there, Marcia, because a lot of times it's based in fear. Right. And you're big in, if it's not love, it's fear. And so much of it was about not a loving God, but the damnation part, right? Like, do this, burn in hell, do that, burn in hell. I had the same exact thing. Yeah. So when you were living there, did you have an outlet or how did you day to day deal with it? Because it clearly didn't fully break your spirit, right?
Sure.
Like Marcia was still there. Was there any coping skills you used? You remember?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a beautiful place. So very fortunate to be out in nature. I mean, I had all the things, a young child would want. I mean, building snow forts in the winter, riding bikes in the summer, hiking in the woods, swimming, and playing with friends. We lived in a compound with lots of families. So there was a lot of people. So there were some fun activities for sure. People were very kind. So it wasn't an everyday feeling. Later, as a teenager, I began to write. I would write poems. I would write how I felt. And that was a huge escape or outlet for me. Later, music really helped, although I was guarded with what music I could listen to. That came more later in life as an even better outlet.
Yeah. Did you have to hide your journal? Were you scared that your parents or anyone would read your thoughts?
Actually, I wasn't. And maybe in hindsight, someone did read it. But I wasn't worried about it.
No. Okay. You were a little free spirit from the beginning, Marcia.
People say, some of my family and friends say, how did you know? How did you feel this from a young age? And I don't know, honestly. However, I'm very fortunate that because I ended up leaving at 18 as quickly as I could. And other people ask me, why did you leave? Or why did you have the courage to leave? And honestly, it wasn't about courage. It was really about needing to leave and really find the life path that ultimately was for me and not in that environment.
Okay. Yeah. You have a beautiful quote about that in your book too. Okay. So just to give a clear picture, because we don't want to spend too long on this because I want to get to the spiritual journey, but we're talking about dresses down to your ankles, right? I mean, you were at school. She outlines all this in the book. You guys, you have to read this, but you didn't get your ears pierced. You didn't paint your nails. You had to make sure you didn't appear a certain way around the boys as to not tempt them, right?
Yeah,
you couldn't
absolutely.
have wet hair. You couldn't have like lots of different things. So it was a very patriarchal religion for sure, as most are.
The impact was more so to the women because of cover yourself, be in full modesty. Yeah. And even when I talked to men, even my brothers had less of an impact because they weren't, especially at school, weren't noticed to be different. I was noticed to be different. I did go to public school. It was hard even in gym class and in wearing a dress every day and needing to look different and knowing and kind of labeled as the odd one.
Sure. I thought it was interesting in your book even that people would say like Marcia. They were quoting the Brady Bunch and you had no clue what they were talking about because you only had TV for things like the Olympics or a sports game. You weren't watching the Brady Bunch. So they would say Marcia. And you were like, haha, like you had no clue. Yeah.
Right. I finally think I asked someone probably in my early 20s, why does everyone repeat my name 3 times? And they're like, you don't know about the Brady Bunch? I'm like, no.
Have you gone back to watch? Have you ever watched it now? Oh, Marcia, you should have a little marathon sometime. And
I
check
think
it
I had a
out.
coloring book one time of the Brady
Did you
Bunch.
a
That
Brady
was
Bunch
it.
one? Okay.
Yeah.
Got the monkeys. Boy, we had it all going on at that point. I love that. All right. So you did end up leaving at 18 years old and you headed out to start a career, right?
Mm.
Because you didn't do the traditional, I'm going to go off and do college. Like you hit the pavement,
I hit
right?
the pavement. It wasn't that college was prohibited. I didn't know how to really figure out a way to pay for it without coming back during
Yeah.
holidays and summer break. So I just needed a real break, full break. And in my last year of high school, I was fortunate enough to get a job at a small bank in my local town and as a teller. So that began what I had no idea about was a 35 plus year career in financial services.
Yeah. And you started as a teller. You started at the base level and you worked all the way up. And so during this 35-year career journey, you were climbing the ranks. Are there moments that stand out for you where you were like, wow, I'm making this happen?
Yeah. So my 20s, I just kept progressing as much as I could. I worked for a couple different banks, and each time I got promoted, it was just wonderful. I felt really glad I could, eventually, because I was working a couple other jobs at the same time in my early days. Once I could get down to two jobs and then to one job, that was a huge milestone. Another was working for a couple of software companies, one back in the mid 90s when internet banking first started to come out. I knew all the banking systems. So I was able to be part of that change in our industry, which was super enjoyable. And then in 99, I started my consulting career. I had no idea, especially because I still didn't ever or never did obtain my bachelor degree, although I've taken many courses. I knew the systems and I knew what my clients were going through. So that was another huge milestone where I found such a way to be able to help my clients, offer them the right technology, the right business process improvement. And that was certainly enjoyable. The technology companies I worked for were fabulous, but they also wanted to hone in on just to their technology. And I felt a different freedom being able to work with many technology companies for my clients.
Yes. And throughout that journey, were you feeling totally fulfilled or was there something pulling at you? Because I'm sure as a woman in this industry, you felt that too, right? Like you weren't always fully probably as appreciated as you should have been,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Were there moments where you were just like, oh, is this it? I'm so accomplished, but is this it?
Yes, I would say I always was I just got used to being almost all the time the only female in the room.
Mhm.
And I tried not to enter into victim mode around that. It just is what it is. What can you fight? But I did have conversations along the way in my career about communication styles, my style. I wasn't going to be in a boardroom in New York and shout and try to compete
Right.
with loud, often men. And so learning to communicate in a different way was really important. But back to your question about the pull, the tug, I knew that the career was important to me. It afforded me the opportunity to travel and gain many experiences, which I'm so grateful for. However, I always knew I wanted to do something different in my 50s or 60s, and I just didn't know how or when. And I kept really manifesting that. What is it that I want to do? And really being guided. And quite frankly, the last about 7 or 8 years of my career, they didn't continue to advance. I had kind of reached a peak.
Mhm.
And those moments were frustrating, but there were also moments where, or those experiences was for a totally different purpose and answering really and helping me along my spiritual journey. So I always
Mhm.
say, kind of be careful what you wish for because it comes in different ways and not just wishing, but manifesting a little bit more deliberately.
Yeah.
And those answers come, and sometimes we don't see them until they're over, and the why doesn't come out till later. But the
Yeah.
pull of really exploring and being open, but also being as present as possible to how I still could continue to help my clients. And I received a lot of joy even in that, even in those times.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask this. Was there a specific moment that you can remember where you really did get to the point where you went, okay, some changes have to be made, and you felt like that spiritual awakening pull? You literally started feeling like there's more. There's
Mm.
more. I've got to explore this. I've got to figure this out. Was there a specific moment for you? And like, what age was that, would you say?
I think there was a specific moment, Jen. I think I explored other churches because I moved to the South and I thought, oh, maybe there's some things that are different. And
Mhm,
I found
mhm,
some similarities that did not resonate with me, and still a very fearful God.
mhm.
There was some times when actually one moment I can think of in my early 20s, a good friend of mine said, Marcia, God is so big. He doesn't care if you're mad at him right now. And that just actually gave
Mhm.
me so much freedom. I'm like, I can have that conversation with God.
Yep.
and and then later there were times when I felt like I just needed to put a different name to God. And sometimes source, sometimes spirit, sometimes universe. And I felt such freedom in that. And throughout really my journey, my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, I did feel the presence of angels. I did feel the presence of God. I never felt fully alone, but still lots and lots of questions. And that's when I started to come across certain spiritual teachers that just had a different approach than the church, and really being in tune that I could find God outside of church. And when I started to separate out religion from God and develop more of a personal relationship, and some of those authors, one in particular, Gabby Bernstein, and I just
Mhm.
had an opportunity to go on her retreat a couple of months ago, which was lovely to meet her and another wonderful group of people. And that's when I was really she speaks to if it's not love, it's fear. And
Yeah.
I just kept, choosing love, choose love, reframe. And then other authors, Michael Singer is one of my favorites. He wrote The Untethered Soul and a couple of other books, and even just
Mhm.
a recent one that started to make me he brought God in, and even passages from the Bible, in a new way, without also being this kind of new age religion that I feel like new age wasn't where I wanted to go. It was something kind of in the middle that was real for me. And there was a really
Mhm.
nice balance in that. And just a lot of freedom and answers started really, I would say, in my 30s, and then even more in my 40s.
So it sounds like a big part of the beginning, and this is very common in spiritual awakening, started with religious deconstruction, right?
Yeah.
You had to reframe everything you'd been taught. And this is a big part for everyone. And so it sounds like if you had to give some tips to someone listening right now who's in the process of doing that religious deconstruction, I mean, go to the books, go to the courses, right? See what resonates with you. Because like you said, new age didn't feel right for you. You
Yeah.
went to different churches, they didn't feel right, right? So this is really being intuitively led also this entire time, like what feels right. You even talked about, and a lot of people go through this. I went through this too. Do I need to change the word God to something else?
Hmm.
Right? Because you'll hear people say source, universe, all these different things. And I think we're all talking about the same thing, right? We
Yeah.
are. Did you end up coming back to God now, saying the word God? Is it God for you again?
It is. I also still use other words, and I
Yeah.
use source, I use spirit, I use the universe, because what I've also learned is, or just acknowledged and reframed, God doesn't have an ego. And
Oh.
so she doesn't care what we call him or her. And another way I reframed it was the creator. And there were times when I questioned, is there a God, and what does that mean, and in what context? And but I could answer a simple truth. I was created. And when we look at the magnificence of this earth, of the solar planets, of the detailed intricacies of my little finger, like, wow, I am in awe of creation. And that started to just open my eyes in a totally different way that said, if God did all of this, he didn't put us here on this earth to just suffer and be bad and repent. And, there's
No.
mistakes we make as part of the human journey, and we're always constant learning, but it just gave me so much freedom to picture God in a totally different, refreshing, loving, beautiful way of just the details that he has created.
Yeah. And did you have to go through the process? Because another thing that's a difference in spirituality versus religion is the reincarnation factor. Did you have to like dive into that?
Little bit.
Like multiple lives versus one life? Where do you fall on that now?
I honestly don't know, right? I'm okay with that. Maybe when I leave this earthly body, I will know,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And in what context? Because, well, it's interesting to think about, was I here in another physical body prior? I don't know. Did my spirit choose this earthly body, this family to come into? I do believe that. I am
Yeah.
here and we all are for a purpose. That one was hard to swallow for a bit because I thought, why would I ever choose this life?
Exactly. Yeah. That's when you got to wrap your head around. Like, I chose all this bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that took me a minute too. But you talk about how then that leads you to the reframe.
Yes,
Right?
it
I
did.
mean, you've got to get through that phase for anyone
Mhm.
listening of that, like, that sounds ridiculous that I would choose to go through the things I've gone through. Right?
Yes.
But that's part of the healing journey because once
Oh,
you get through realizing some of those things, you go, wow, I actually really appreciate that stuff. Like,
it's
I really
so
appreciate what
liberating.
happened.
Yes.
Yes. And then you can reframe because you talk in the book a little bit about how you had to, I mean, we all do have to reframe not just the religious dogma, but just what happened to us and
Right.
why, and like get out of that victim mode, right?
Yes.
I need to be thankful for the things I learned from it because it was probably part of the plan, right?
Absolutely.
Which
Yes.
sounds crazy. I know if you're listening, you might be like, this still sounds crazy to me. Listen, we'll get there. Okay.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's part of the reframe and the healing process because I mean, I feel like this whole lifetime is just about healing, right?
It is.
Okay. All right. So you went through the religious deconstruction. You're like, you're reading books, you're watching shows, probably you're thinking about retreat courses. You're in, that phase of our spiritual journey I talk about where we're just dipping our toe into everything. And you even had a moment you talked about when you first had Reiki.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Wow, what an amazing experience. I really just had no kind of concept of what it was and just the energy in our body. And I had wrapped up my career or my with a particular company, and I took a break and went down to Costa Rica. And just this beautiful healing retreat with treatments every day of different kinds. On the last day of the retreat, I thought, oh, I'll do one more. And Reiki came up, and I thought, okay, I want to try this. And I'm laying on the table and I'm thinking, okay, because it's all, it's not physical touch.
Oh, you're thinking
It's
like, when's my massage start? Yeah, go.
yeah. And I'm like, okay, we're okay. And I just kept being open. And this wonderful woman just, at the end, she said, Marcia, I feel something. I feel a blockage in you. And I just burst into tears. I'm like, I
Mhm.
felt seen. And it, through that process, it started an awareness of what happens to stress, to worry, to fear. It lands in our body. And I needed to release it. And I went on a journey to really seek, what does this mean? How to I move through this energy? And back to your point about the reading, I kept curiosity of what is this? How can I? What are the techniques? And they really just kept landing in my lap. And this is when, I just so appreciate and understand Abraham Hicks and the law of attraction. Whatever is on your mind, you're attracting. And I just kept coming across other modes of healing, and which, eventually led me. I had met Emily Fletcher for meditation prior to that time, but eventually, how you and I met, and just her methods of healing, and a lot of it just moving through that energy in our bodies to
Yeah.
release. And if we don't release it on the spiritual level, it goes into the mind, it goes into the physical plane, and just becoming way more aware of the dimensions of us and how we need to treat and honor ourselves. Just like we need to eat every day or exercise, we need
Yeah.
that spiritual healing
Yep.
through many different modes that are out there. And there's no one size fits all. I think everyone has an opportunity to see what works for them.
Mind, body, spirit, right? We
Yeah.
can't ignore any of them.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to go well because the other two will falter. And I think it is amazing how once you start opening in these journeys, things just start coming to you, right?
Mhm.
Like that book pops out on the shelf when you're at Barnes and Nobles, or all of a sudden you find this podcast that you're like, wow, I didn't know this was even out there. You start calling it in. I feel like we
Yeah.
change our frequency and then we call in the things in that frequency,
I
right? And
love
it's
that.
almost like God knows she's ready. Let's send it
Yeah.
to her now. She's ready. Yeah. Like,
Absolutely.
let's do it. So you dipped your toe with Reiki and then you started going all in because there was some plant medicine going on. Am I right?
Yeah, a couple years later, I went on another retreat, and again in Costa Rica, and there
Was that
was an
Emily? Was that
that
Emily's?
yeah, it was with
Yes.
Emily,
Emily Fletcher.
and
Okay.
and I had never met her in person, but I had had so much beautiful experiences with the way she teaches meditation that really helped me so much and really changed my day. And so she, one day again in my inbox, an invite to a retreat in Costa Rica. And she called it at the time Sacred Secret Retreat. And I thought, wow, this is a little intriguing. I don't
Yeah.
even know what this means. But I trusted her. And I also really thought about it and said, is this something I should attend?
Mhm.
And I got a loud yes. And it was such a beautiful experience. And the thing I've learned about plant medicine, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions and maybe just people not aware of the benefits of them. It is a very ceremonial process, and to call in what we want to receive or what we want to let go of. Emily's request was to even bring a symbol of what we wanted to let go, what we wanted to call in, and enabling the plant medicine to really just open the neural pathways that and there's so much science behind it that goes way beyond
So much. Yeah.
my
So
brain. But
yeah.
it's to show how you actually can live and open all of those channels in our physical body on a daily basis without plant medicine. We
Yes.
can move the energy. We can change how we feel. If I wake up with something heavy on my mind, I can dance it out. I can cry it out. I can come back and move that energy and really shift. And that plant medicine was really to demonstrate that for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that alchemized part. You guys could do this Emily Fletcher thing if you get a chance because she's got a whole process and it really is amazing. Yes, the meditation part. She's got pleasure prayer. She's got all the things. Let me say this: we met at this beautiful weekend retreat, you guys, with Emily Fletcher, and it was small. I'm not talking about 50 women. I'm talking we had with facilitators, 7 of us, right? 2 were facilitators. So we had Emily Fletcher and we had Rosa Maxwell that were there with us facilitating this whole thing. And so it was this quaint little group of women. And we were all pretty much midlifers, right? Like we had all been through some shit, is all I'm
Mhm.
saying. Okay. So we all came together. And one thing Emily had said about the medicine, because we did do a psilocybin journey as a group together when we were there, it was beautiful. But I remember her saying, and I hadn't heard it this way, it's all about whether you were taking the medicine to say hello or goodbye.
Mm.
And I remember her saying that and I was thinking I hadn't thought of it that way. I mean, it's very true, right? So what I mean by that is Some people are just using it to numb themselves and not dig in, right? They're just doing it in the backyard on Friday nights. Okay, this is not what we were doing. This is very ceremonial. But a lot of that is you going in with the intention to say goodbye.
Mhm.
Goodbye to your life. Goodbye to all the stuff you don't want to deal with. Versus the way we went in with it was very ceremonial, very set with intention that we were going in to say hello. Hello to us, to our spirit, to our soul, to our lives, to what can be, right? That's how we entered into it. So we had this beautiful weekend, you guys. We had these experiences. We had like cacao ceremonies. And we did all these wonderful things. And I think and you can tell me what you feel about the weekend, but one of my favorite parts was I love when you get a bunch of strong spiritual female energy in the same circle together. I think it's very powerful. Okay. I love it.
I had
You
no
agree?
idea what to expect. It was
No. Yeah.
and
We
at
had talked about how you
first
were like slumber party. Like, what am I
oh,
signing
yeah,
up?
I'm like, "Wait a minute." And there was a possibility of even sharing a room or sharing a
No,
bed,
we
and
had
I
no
thought,
picture if we were going to get our own rooms or not. And so there was a little anxiety with it for sure.
"Same."
But we just had to let go. I
Yeah,
did the same as you. Like, no, this feels like it's all meant to be. And however it goes down is what was meant to be. And it
absolutely.
happened like beautifully, right? The weekend was planned and not planned all at the same time
Mhm.
because it was very free flowing. We
It was
had
very
things,
free
but there
flowing.
wasn't like a tight schedule to it. You know what I mean? Because we started our day meditating together, moving our bodies together, and then things just kind of, I mean, there were things planned and ceremonial things we did, but also we could sit and do nothing if we all felt
Yeah.
like it. Yeah.
Oh, the
Because
times out on the
yeah,
lawn, just feet in the grass and talking and laughing and sharing stories
yeah.
and tears, whatever would come up, it was just
Yeah.
so
One of my
beautiful.
favorite things with Marcia was so we had been doing our journey. We'd been in the old journey for hours. I don't even know because like time isn't a thing anymore, right? When you're doing the magic mushrooms. Anyway, so we were all having our own beautiful experiences. And then we were both popped up, sitting up, and we're just kind of chit chatting like, what's going on for you over there? And you were like, I'm kind of hungry. And you were like, no, you did what women do. No, I'm hungry, but like, no, I don't need to eat, right? I don't need it. And I said, Marcia, if there was a plate of food sitting here, would you eat it? And you were like, yeah. And I was like, same. And so all of a sudden, we led this charge outside. We all grabbed blankets and pillow. We all went out in the middle of this sunshine field of grass. And and then all of a sudden, there was just like a blanket full of snacks. I mean, we had like fresh guac and chips, dark chocolate
Fruit.
and cashews and fruit and cheese. We had all the things. And we all just sat out there. We're all basically sitting there coming down off the shrooms together, just snacking and we're laughing. We're having serious moments of storytelling and then we're laughing. And it was just so beautiful, right? You couldn't
Mm,
have planned moments like that. You can't plan
no,
things out like that.
no.
No. And we just sat and shared. And I think part of the healing for me during the whole long weekend was just being witnessed by others in a very loving, held environment. I wasn't expecting answers from anyone. We weren't there to
No.
solve each other's problems necessarily, although we did some mentoring with each other, but it was just more like being held, just
Was
sharing a story and knowing that everyone is listening and feeling your vibe and just witnessing it, right? With no real expectation. Is that how you felt?
absolutely. The beautiful part of it is, and this is really how I live my life now, is, and Emily talks about bliss as any feeling fully felt and honoring. So, how many times do we want to rush to someone who's in tears and say, it's okay, stop crying, fix it. And then it's like, no, if I need to let that emotion flow, that's where what gets stored is when we don't allow the tears,
Yes.
when we don't allow the anger, when we don't allow those feelings, both seemingly positive or negative, to come up. And in that, and we all understood that, and
Mhm.
Emily's and Rose's teachings of just being with it. We just do want to be witnessed. We want to be honored. And
Yeah.
it
Our
was
true
such a
feelings.
yeah, it was such a beautiful time.
Yeah.
I will never forget it.
Yeah. And this group of women, I share my stories to you guys, but I'm not here to out anybody else. But we all had stuff. We were all dealing with some stuff. Okay. Because we're midlife first, right? 40s, 50s. We've been through some stuff and we had things we needed to heal and do. And so it was just really beautiful. And we even had one woman she came from like a faraway country. And so she was kind of jet lagged. So she would just be napping on the lawn. And out of nowhere, she would just pop up with words of wisdom like no other. Okay. And you'd be like, oh my gosh, she's like our little sleeping shaman. She
Yeah.
would just be napping next to us all and then pop up with amazing words of wisdom. I don't even know what was getting channeled through this whole weekend, Marcia, but
It was
very
beautiful.
cool.
It's so hard to describe it. It is interesting you say we were all dealing with something. What I've learned to have compassion with myself is healing is going to be our entire lifespan.
Mhm.
And there's going to be triggers. There's going to be things that come up and we just need to honor them. Even though I feel like did a lot of healing last year, the year before, 10 years ago, there's things that are going to come up, new experiences, and some of it could be just our bodies changing with hormones. That
Oh, God, that's a big part of it. Are you kidding? Yeah.
So my thought is always just give ourselves some compassion and grace for the things that need to come up and honor them versus I should be over this by now. I should be all fixed.
Yeah, because every, decade of my life, I thought I'd fixed it all. And
Yeah.
now I know that there's no fixing it all, right? You come to that realization
Exactly.
real fast, like, no, I guess I can't fix it all, can I? But it does get better and better and easier and
It
easier.
does.
Yeah, no, I love
It
that.
does. Mhm.
You get this book and we're going to talk about what's next. Cause like we talk about, we're not done. You don't write a book and call it. We all have a lot of things going on. And I want to read this quote because in your book, you talk a little bit about your 20s, your 30s, as you get towards the end of the book. She's talking about when she turned 40. All right. So I'm just going to read this really quick. Turning 40 felt like stepping into a sunlit clearing. No one warned me how freeing it would be. Not because it was all about me, but because suddenly it wasn't. I stood taller, armed with enough wisdom to shape my response to life's highs and lows rather than just reacting to it all. Challenges, I learned, weren't about surrendering to fear or victimhood. They were invitations to rise with courage and grace. Yes, at 40, I truly began to live. And I know most of my listeners are somewhere in the ripple out from 40, whether you're not quite to 40 or you're far past 40. We're all rippling around that 40, right? and 50, just FYI, I mean, Marshall will probably say this too. 50 gets even better. Like it just
It
keeps
does.
getting better, you guys. If you're on this
Yes.
path and on this awakening, it's just going to get better and better and better. So here's what I want to know, Marcia. What's next? What's Marcia doing next on her journey?
So I have so many ideas. Along the way, though, I have learned in what I call is surrendered action. To me, that is surrender means a lot of different things to different people. And I've spent a lot of time with it. Surrender doesn't just sit back and passively wait for things to come in your lap, right? It's that constant kind of seeking and then putting some action to it. So it helped me write my
Yep.
book and get to that step. And I'm going to be recording my audiobook this
Yay.
summer.
Okay.
So I've some of the just tactical things along that way. My passion is still, and this is where I'm asking really, God for guidance on how and where to help others. Who am I here to serve in this next chapter? I have a passion for my friends, my former colleagues, clients, to bring more tools to the corporate world for those who do feel they need to stay in it through workshops, through speaking engagements, in helping in that. I have a real passion for those who grew up in similar religious oppressive environments for me, of being able to connect and really demonstrate that healing is possible. The religious
Mm-hmm.
deconstruction is
Yeah.
real, and you don't have to live a life of fear going forward and whatever that might be. So I'm just exploring a lot of those, but my heart says I have completed my financial services career and I feel really good
Yes.
about that. And to be able to workshops and speaking engagements. I may do some individual coaching. I think my time will be spent more with groups in the corporate world or
Oh my
retreats
gosh, you can go in the
that could
corporate
include
world and you can help them learn how to live, with more love than fear, right? Yeah,
yes,
could we bring
yes,
that into the corporate world? That would be amazing. Could you go
I
bring it
think
into
so.
politics too, please?
I
A big task for
know.
you, Marcia. Um,
Yeah.
You've got a lot to do. And your spiritual journey is not done either because you're still taking courses and stuff. Am I right? We just did that retreat. Like you're still open
Yeah,
to all of the things God and the universe has for you spiritually too, right? Like you're chugging along on
absolutely.
everything else,
Yeah,
but you have beautiful spiritual things going on. You're even dipping a toe in the Tantra world right now, aren't you?
I
Yeah.
am. I am.
Yeah.
And Tantra, especially in the US, is like, what does that mean? Everyone says that's just about sex. And it's
No,
absolutely, it just
it's
isn't.
not.
And, for those who want to explore it, it's just, for me, it's a beautiful path to
Yeah.
wholeness. I'm taking Rosa Maxwell's London School of Tantra's facilitator training right now. And I may not ever teach Tantra, but the tools and the way Rosa teaches it under the frame apply to anything I really kind of look at the name of my book is Soulful Joy and of my company and, Soulful Joy sessions, how to help people find more joy. And the beauty of the elements of Tantra are things like just learning to say, how am I putting boundaries around my life and my energy? Boundaries is one, connection, authenticity. I mean, these are attributes that if we all could really become aware of them and really learn and understand how they help in our in our continued healing journey. And it isn't for everyone, but I do have a passion because I'm learning and I'm loving, and I think they're topics that are amazing.
You pull out what resonates with you and you go with it. So Rosa, she's talking about Rosa Maxwell. She's agreed to come on the show and tell us the whole world all about this Tantra business. I know. I'm
Excellent.
excited to
Oh,
introduce all my friends, all my listeners to the world of Tantra. So that's coming, you guys. But yes, you're open to all the things. You've got stuff coming that I'm really excited about. Okay. I have everything in the show notes, you guys. You've got to get your hands on this book because we just touched on the tip of the iceberg here. Okay. There's like a lot more in this book. And I love at the end of it, you have a whole section of all the books that helped you during your journey. Because you're going to read Marcia's book and then you're going to order every book in the back of this if you haven't read it yet.
absolutely.
Right? Because every single one of them are ones that I also have found to be really helpful in the spiritual journey awakening. Right.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, you're going to read a book, you guys, you're going to listen to a podcast, you're going to sign up for a course, you're going to go on a retreat, and you're going to pull out exactly what resonates with you because every single person at a retreat walks away with something different,
Yeah.
right? That resonated for them. So you just keep doing the things because we can do this alone, but why? Why would we do that? Why would we
Absolutely.
do that?
And honestly, I've reread those books too.
Yeah.
So what landed for me first, because some of the concepts when I first read Michael Springer's book, and I'm like, I don't
Much.
understand this. And I took little pieces of it. And then I came back to it and I'm like, oh, that one, now I know what he's talking about.
Yes. The more you open up, then you go back and you're like, I get more of this book now. I'm getting it. Yeah.
I'm Michael Singer. I called
So
him Springer.
whatever. Yeah. We know what we're talking about. Yeah. So get your hands on this book. And thank you so much, Marcia. This
Oh,
has
thank
been
you,
so
Jen.
fun.
I
I loved
know.
it. Listen, I fully believe that people are brought into our lives and there's synchronicities, just like the books and the podcasts and the retreats. You meet the people you're meant to meet at that little point in your life. Right. And you utilize that for part of our journey
Yes.
and our growth.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh, thank
And
you.
whenever you have anything new pop up, you make sure you come back and tell us all.
I sure will.
Listen, I know your time is valuable. And right now, I'm feeling super grateful and totally humbled that you chose to hang out with me today. If this podcast resonates with you, could you do me a solid and hit that subscribe or follow button? That's going to help you out because you're never going to miss an episode. And it helps me out because you're never going to miss an episode. And if you have like 30 seconds more, could you leave a 5-star rating and maybe leave a kick-ass review? Thank you so much, and I can't wait to continue our journey on the next episode. Oh, and I can't forget the fine print. You know, the legal jargon. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We're just two friends on this journey together, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or any other qualified professional. You get it. See you next time.